Hey guys, I am here and I am promoting you all to panelists. Those of you that are delegates, which I think is about everybody here. So we will get started in just a few minutes.
Great.
Check one, check. Nope.
Thanks, Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm logged in a weird, what the heck? I have no idea why there's a picture of a bunny there. Hang on.
Check. Check.
Isn't that like Peter Rabbit?
Yeah, but why is that there? I think because the Google account I signed in with is not the one I usually use for the party. I don't know, but I don't know how to make it go away. So,
how can I get it so that I have the gallery view?
I can't even see anyone's face.
Yeah, I don't see any video settings for anyone.
Oh, you know what? I've got to make you panelists to allow you to video. I think what I've been doing is just allowing you to talk, but that
Yeah,
apparently doesn't actually turn on your camera. So let me make everybody a panelist. Right now, I think the only person that's a panelist is me and Joshua Perkins, because it made me do that because he has an older version of Zoom or something. But anyway, I'm gonna go through and promote everybody to panelists, and then you should be able to use your video. And then we won't have to look at Flopsy and Cottontail anymore.
There I am.
And can you make sure to make Everett, assuming he's in here, panelist as well?
Yes, yeah, everyone that's here right now. So is Everett doing the secretarial work tonight, or is Dominic DiCarlo? Because I think we were kind of getting our wires crossed about
that. Everett will be secretary tonight.
Okay, all right. Well, I had talked to him about doing it tomorrow afternoon, and which anyway, I'd say it sounded like they were both available, so hopefully we can still work that out. But
hey, don't forget to make Dane panelist.
Yeah, I'm still promoting everybody right now.
Okay, sorry, I didn't.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, it's just I've got a long list. I've got to do it all manually.
This is Everett. I am here. If anyone needs me for anything, I am here.
Okay, great. Well, we'll probably, once we actually get to the, the motions and so on, we'll definitely can use you to record that. And, if we actually have any votes, if you can, record that as well. For you guys who don't know, we're going to be voting using a online platform. What is it called, Bryce?
Zoyondo.
Okay, yeah, and we'll be placing the link in the chat box, and then you can go there and cast a vote, just in a little online poll, and then we'll be able to see how everyone voted. Let's see. Okay.
Patrick, have you shared the agenda with everyone for tonight?
I don't think that I have, and I apologize for that, and I will post that in the chat box so that everyone can look at it. And of course, we can also get it up on screen share. Or actually, Bryce, while I'm messing with this, do you think you could do that? Because I believe you have the agenda.
Yep. Also, I'm aware that Jacqueline Abernathy will not be here tonight.
Okay.
And to the best of my knowledge, she's not appointed an alternate.
Okay. If someone can get in touch with her and there's someone available as an alternate, that would be good. But if not, we'll just have to move on.
I suggested, I told her that she was able to do that.
Okay.
Vincent, you are going to be having delegate powers this evening because Jeff Culbreth won't be on the call.
Okay, can I get some, just, on the principle of the thing, can I get like something from Jeff saying that Vincent is his alternate? Because I don't think I ever heard from him.
Jeff, send messages when I tell you.
Yeah. And just to everybody, so there are a lot of us on this call. There's going to be, over 30 people. And one thing that means is I think most of you are doing it, but just remember to keep yourself muted if you don't need to be talking, because otherwise we'll get feedback and that'll be worse for everybody. Also, if you are able to, if you can figure it out, if you don't know how to use the raise your hand feature, that will become very important because it lets me see who wants to jump in without you having to speak over other people. And because there are so many of us on the call, I can't necessarily see you, you know, on video at any given time because I can only see so many of you at once. So if you don't know how to use the raise your hand feature, let us know and somebody will direct you to show you how to do that.
Patrick, I saw a raise your hand feature before I was promoted. I don't see it now. If somebody can point me to where it is, that would be great.
Okay, can somebody direct Monica?
It should be if you open up your participants box on your bottom row.
Thanks, I remember now. Forgot.
If we could continue with that explanation.
Oh,
Yes. Yes. Go to the participant. So at the bottom of your screen, if you move your mouse around, you should see a bunch of different buttons. And there should be one of them that says participants. If you click on participants,
All right, I got it. Thanks.
yeah.
okay.
Just to continue with that, there's a series of buttons that should show up at the bottom of the participant box, one of which is raise hand. Just in case there was anybody else that.
Okay, there are currently so there are currently 27 of us here, which is pretty good as these things go, but that still does mean that we're missing 5 or 6 delegates. Possibly more than that, since there are a couple of us here who aren't delegates. Does anybody know who is not here?
Yeah, I don't see Albert Thompson.
Oh yeah, well he was on the call with Leo Labresco, so I know he's around. If somebody who's his Facebook friend would message him real quick. And who else are we missing? So Alan is here because I know that Sean Domenchik is out. But also I believe James Bowl had named Alan as his alternate as well. And I don't know if they ever decided on having another alternate because he can only have 1 vote. So if anybody has heard from the Pennsylvania guys about that.
I don't see Samuel Kinsey.
Yeah, I need to like look at the list of all of the delegates that were elected actually because I can't keep them all.
Are you planning to call roll at some point?
I have the list in front of me right now if you want me to just read down it. This is Dominic.
Okay, sure. Yeah. If I tell you what, this will be a good opportunity to take attendance since we're getting into it. So if you just want to read down the list and people can chime in and say present, we'll just go ahead and do a roll call.
Patrick Harris is obviously here. Desmond.
Okay, so Desmond might still be out.
Skylar.
I know I just saw Skylar join. So.
Bonnie Callis.
Here.
Yep. Christopher Sender.
Here.
David Bovey.
Here.
J. Tyler Martin.
Here.
Raynard Phillips.
Okay, so there's another one. If I tell you what, Bryce, do you think you could take charge of messaging any of these people that are currently not here?
Already done.
Okay.
Already sent messages to Desmond, Raynard, and Albert. And I guess Albert's on the call now. So.
Yeah, Albert's here, but I guess Desmond and Raynard. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Continue with the roll call, please.
Tai Chi Kuo.
Yep.
William Campbell. Tony Godotti,
Present.
Christy Yao,
Here.
Dane Garrett,
Present.
Luke Tierney, looks like Luke is not here. Matthew Bosley,
I am here.
Monica Tully Solar,
Here.
James Bull,
Okay, so
Sean.
that's another one. Oh,
Yep.
sorry. Go ahead.
Sean Dominic,
Yeah, he's out. He assigned Alan as his alternate.
what's Alan's last name? Sorry.
Mickle, Mickle.
Zeb Bichelli,
Oh, he just came into the call. Let me promote him to panelist.
Albert Thompson,
Present.
Bryce Wargan, Avi.
Here.
Carter McNeese,
Bryce is here. Sorry.
Present.
Eric Schenkel,
Here.
Sarah Bork,
Here.
Joshua Perkins,
Present.
Brian Talbot,
Here.
Jordan and Lovek,
Present.
Kathleen Lang, I see her, Ryan Governell,
Present.
Sammy O'May,
I know for a fact that he said he'll be a few minutes late, but he is coming.
okay, and then we already talked about Jacqueline is not here currently.
Okay, so we have maybe 3 or 4 absent and another one coming. So that's not too bad.
Yeah, and then Jeff Colbreth and Jeffrey Stewart as well.
Oh, James Bowl is coming, but it'll be a few minutes.
Oh yeah, I'd probably already marked you, Esther.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Yep.
Okay. So Jeffrey's out as well. I'd forgotten that. I know he had some alternates assigned. Are they here? I'll have to go back and check.
Dominic was his first alternate.
Oh, okay. And he's also gone. So who was his second?
Wait, Dominic just did the roll call. The one giving the role.
Oh, right. Well, I thought Dominic was someone else's alternate as well, though.
Not that I can think of. It would have to be a South or Texas person.
One second, I'm sorry.
Okay, Reynard is here. That's good. I know that Jeffrey gave me a list of his alternates, but I guess if that person were here, they would know it. So
yeah, I think that Dominic's here and is not.
Oh, actually, yeah, Jeffrey
is anybody else's.
Okay,
alternate,
he's not anyone else's alternate. Okay, in that case, then he can serve as Jeffrey's alternate. I wasn't clear on that. Okay, for some reason I thought that he was an alternate for another delegate who wasn't here. Okay. Oh, and James Bull is joining us now. Okay, so I think that's everyone except we're still expecting Sami, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and so that's everyone for now.
Yeah, so I believe if I remember from last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dane, but one of the delegates is supposed to call this to order. So
do it, Bryce.
I guess call this meeting to order. The business meeting of the portion of the 2020 ASP National Convention. And I'd like to make a motion to elect a chair.
Seconded.
Nominations are now open. I will nominate Patrick Harris as chair.
Second.
Bai Chi, yes.
So chair of what? Of the convention or of the national committee?
Convention. sorry, yes, chair of the National Convention. Are there any other nominations?
Can we secretly elect Patrick National Committee Chairman without him knowing?
I'd also be in favor of that, but I don't think we can. I think that would go against bylaws.
So this is Everett. And I just to clarify, am I secretary at this point, or will be secretary?
Well, we were just about to get to that.
Okay.
But we had asked Dominic to do it as well. I think we kind of got some wires crossed about when we wanted you guys. Since Dominic is filling in for Jeffrey, perhaps you can be our secretary tonight, and we'll just let Dominic be a delegate, and then we'll work out what we want to do with you guys for tomorrow.
Okay.
But I'm just saying that informally because the delegates haven't moved it yet. But anyway. So.
I understand. Then could I just ask everyone if there's a desire to record who's nominating and seconding things, if everybody could just say their own name when they say second, that would help me out quite a bit going forward. Or whoever does it, that would be helpful.
That sounds reasonable to me. Me, Bryce, I made both of those so far.
Okay, and I see.
And Tony Gadati seconded the motion to elect the chair. Carter McNeese seconded Patrick's nomination.
And incidentally, welcome to Sami and Desmond both. So we're now near full attendance, except for a couple who I think we're not expecting tonight. So
sorry for being late. I just got off of work.
Oh, no problem. Glad you're here. All right. So Bryce, take it away.
So any other nominations? Seeing none, Patrick is chair. So go ahead, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Bryce. So I believe the next item on the agenda is to elect our president pro tem, which we already did that informally in the planning for the convention, but we need to go ahead and do that formally for the convention itself. So do I have any nominations for president pro tempore of the ASB National Convention?
I would like to nominate Bryce Wargen as president pro tempore.
Okay, we have a nomination by Tony Guadati of Bryce Wargen as president pro tem.
I'll second that, Monica Solar.
Okay, Monica Solar seconds the nomination. Do we have any other nominations for president pro tem? If not, then we can just have that by unanimous consent as well. So Bryce will be taking office as our president pro tem. Next is the issue of secretaries, which there are no sort of, I don't know if there are even any formal roles delegated to that office, but if someone wants to move to
this is Carter. I move that the chairman be authorized to appoint secretary at will.
All right. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second
it. And thanks for doing that, Carter. I meant to send that to everybody, not just to you.
All right.
Thanks for moving it for me.
All right. The motion is seconded. I'll just get a voice vote on that. So you can just.
Who seconded?
Oh, who was the second? Was that Dane? Or who seconded that?
Everyone seconded it.
You can put me down for it.
Yeah, we'll put Dan Garrett down as having seconded it, but I think several people did.
And I'm assuming. I mean, I'm just. If people want a log of the seconds, I'll keep a log of the seconds. But if that's not desirable, we can dispense with that.
Yeah, I mean,
let me know what.
In principle, we should keep a record of the seconds. It's just we're going to have to be careful to note who that person is, which I know makes your job a little bit more in depth. But
I'll also note that at last year's convention there were a few motions that do not have seconds recorded in the minutes. So so that should take a little bit of pressure off your shoulders.
Okay, so we have a seconded motion to empower the chairman to appoint secretaries. I'm going to move that to a voice vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. With that note, I'll be appointing Everett and Dominic as our secretaries for this convention. We'll work out the scheduling as needed. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, now that we have our convention officers, I'll tell you what, Bryce, do you think you could, well, no, I'll do it. Let me just, I can screen share with you guys just so you know what I'm looking at.
I already shared it, but I just put it back, a link to it again in the
Okay, great.
chat window. So if you look in the chat window, you should be able to see it. I see that a few of you have already found it, and I expect to see a lot more little icons popping up on the agenda.
Okay. All right. So the next item is the rules for the convention that we'll be using for the rest of our time together.
Point of,
Yeah,
I guess, order. Just so everybody knows, you are being recorded. Does anybody have any objections to being recorded?
Okay, I'll take that as a no.
Okay, just needed to say that so you commit any felonies.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we've had issues with that in this party. So in that case, yeah, everybody, this is being recorded. You're not obligated to have your video on, but just know anything you say is, you know, being recorded. So let's move on to the rules report. Bryce, would you like to discuss that before we put that forward as a motion, or? Oh, sorry, Bryce.
So moved.
I believe I. Oh.
Yeah, and I'll second it just to talk. So if I hope everyone's had a chance to look over the rules document. It's been out there for a couple days now, but I will copy it into the chat. Basically, it says that we're adopting Robert's Rules of. There's two parts to it. First, that we adopt Robert's Rules of Order, that the chairman has great discretion in the order he recognizes speakers on things. There's some modifications to the rules of speaking from Robert's Rules, given our limited time. There's some specific rules about the National Committee elections and how those will be conducted, which I think we can get into once we get to the National Committee elections. If there's a note that if the resolution of vote can't be determined by voice or any delegate calls for a vote on the record, we can move to a vote on the record using Zoyondo. It doesn't say Zoyondo, it says an online service, but that's what we will be using.
So just to hit that point home, basically that means we're going to be handling a lot of things by voice vote, but you are entitled to call for a recorded vote. Anybody can call for one, and then it'll be done through the Zoyondo service. We'll have a little link in the chat box, and everybody will vote individually. That is your right. Please do not abuse that privilege. If it's something that it's not a controversial issue, then we don't need to have everybody's vote recorded.
And there's also a point that if the chair decides that you're just doing this in order to take up as much time as possible, then the chair can say no. There's also a note that motions to amend the platform or to amend the bylaws have to pass with a 2/3 threshold rather than a standard majority threshold. The second part of the Rules Committee report just says that these rules of order that we pass will be the ones used at the start of next year's national convention, just for the sake of continuity. And it also says that it also makes note of the fact that that doesn't prevent next year's national convention from changing the rules of order with a majority vote. So.
Okay.
I move to accept I guess it's already been moved, but I guess I move to accept the accept this recommendation.
In theory, people can still speak.
Say that again, Dave.
In theory, people can still speak, and we vote when we're done speaking, and I'm done speaking.
Right. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about the rules or anything that they want to say about that before we move forward?
Who made the motion?
Dane made the motion, and I seconded it.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the rules for the convention before we move that to a vote? If not, I will just very quickly call for a voice vote again. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. All opposed? Okay. And don't forget to remute yourself after that. Unless you need to talk, because we want to keep the feedback down as much as possible. Okay. Thank you, guys. Okay. Well, that's some of the early house cleaning stuff out of the way. Let's get on to our first real live motion that's not just about convention rules. On the agenda, you will see there's a general resolution about a statement of principles. I'll let Bryce introduce his own motion, and then we can move forward to the procedural bits.
So do we want to have the resolution read, or you're muted, Patrick?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I can do that. Let me bring it up real quick. So the motion by Bryce has been co-sponsored ahead of time by a long list of delegates that I won't read, but it will be on the record. Resolved that it is the sense of the Delegate Convention that the American Solidarity Party should have a statement of principles which is protected from change by a supermajority in the bylaws for the purpose of stabilizing and anchoring the identity and unified goals of the party. Further resolved that it is the sense of the convention that such a statement of principles should not serve as a litmus test for membership nor for party leadership. Do you want me to read the bit about the exceptions that Sami and Jeff had about co-sponsoring it?
No. So I'm gonna. I guess I'd move this.
Okay.
Resolution. I didn't do that yet. There's somebody to second it.
I'll second it. Monica Solar.
Okay, Monica is seconding it. Now, for those of us who need a refresher, how do we handle the amendments that are attached to the motion? Proposed amendments?
My hope is that, well, so Jeff Culbreth isn't here. I'll go ahead and make his motion, which is to add the words frequent and arbitrary before the word change. I'm accepting that as a friendly amendment. For those who don't know what that means, it is that I'm just accepting it. But if anyone has any objections to it, then we can discuss it. But it's generally for uncontroversial amendments. Go ahead. Oh, sorry, I don't get to call on people.
Oh, yeah. I was just waiting for you to finish. Tai Chi, go ahead.
Yeah, when we are deliberating over specific motions, is it appropriate to share screen and show the actual text?
Yeah, that would be wise, and we'll do that going forward.
All right. Sorry, what's the question?
He was asking just if we could, if we should share the text by screen share when we're going over motions.
I guess I can share my screen. I
Are you
cannot
able to do that, or do I need to make you a co-host?
You would need to make me a co-host.
Okay, I just did. So you think you should be able to do that now?
All right.
All right. So there's our motion.
So
I believe it has been moved and seconded. Moved by Bryce and seconded by Monica, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and move Jeff Culbreth's amendment as a friendly amendment to add the words frequent and arbitrary right here, unless anybody objects.
I'll second it. Since he's not here to move it, you can't move it yourself since you can't be your own second.
Okay. And I'll let Sami make his amendment if he wishes.
Yes.
Which I believe is to add accept right here. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
I'll second that. And I'll also accept that as friendly. All right.
Okay, so so we now have the motion amended by those two friendly amendments with no objection from anyone. So, and it has been seconded. So before moving to a vote, I'd now like to open the floor for discussion. We will generally alternate between people who want to speak in favor or speak in opposition to a motion. For Dane has already chimed in, wants to speak in opposition to the motion, so I will recognize him first, and then we'll move to someone who wants to speak in favor. Yeah, Bryce, you have a point of order?
No, I just figured that well, you had recognized me to speak earlier on it, but we did the amendments first.
Oh, okay. All right, that's fine. We'll go to Bryce, and then we'll go to Dane.
If a person isn't in favor or opposed, just has a simple question.
Yeah, if you just have a question, point of order, or whatever, I'll just recognize you in order, first come first serve, regardless of whether you're going to vote for it or not. So, so we'll go to Eric. Do you have a question before we get into the people speaking in favor or in opposition?
I do have a question, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate at this point. My question is, would passing this resolution not nullify Monica Solar's amendment? And so my question is it necessary to propose an amendment to the motion at this point in order to consider her proposal?
No. So there's a series of three resolutions. There's this one, which is just expressing the sense of the convention. There will be a motion tomorrow morning to adopt a specific statement of principles. And then Monica's amendment was to the proposal to actually make an amendment to the bylaws addressing statement of principles. So I hope that answers your question. And just as a piece of information, if you're in the situation where you just want more information, you can make a point of information that's something different than a point of order. But and you can always interrupt in order to make either of those points.
Okay, so Bryce, I'll allow you to speak in favor of your own motion, and then we'll go to Dane, and the floor will be open after that.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. Let me first note that this resolution takes no position on either the timing of adoption of a statement of principles or on what level of supermajority should protect it. This is intentional. Not all of the co-sponsors and I agree on these questions. What we agree upon is that this party should have a statement of principles, and with an end goal that it will be eventually protected from frequent and arbitrary change in the bylaws by a supermajority. Now, having said that, by now I'm sure you've seen seen some written presentation of my arguments for a statement of principles. But for those of you still on the fence, I will restate it here as succinctly as possible. Different people come to our party with different visions of what this party will be, and often with conflicting views on matters of first importance. You can see some of these conflicts on display at this convention. We have Ms. Yao and his board trying to remove traditional marriage from the platform, while Mr. Bocelli is trying to make it a foremost principle of the party. We have Mr. Bold's statement of principles asserting the duty of the state to intervene in the economy, while Mr. Phillips's statement of principles is fiercely defending the free market. So when these conflicts occur, people either leave the party or they fight back for the identity that they for the vision that they see. And losing a faithful worker is bad enough, but when we have this infighting, it creates a toxic environment that itself drives people away. So our party's position is largely defined by two documents: the affirmation statement, which contains glaring ambiguities, most notably in the regarding meaning of the phrase social justice, which means different things to different people, and a platform whose purpose is to set forth policies that the party stands for at a particular point in time, and therefore must be easy to change. I know that when I came to the party, I had some major points of disagreement with the platform, and I thought, well, platform's easily changeable. And so I think that's what's causing our problem. For a third party to make its mark on American politics, it needs an identity. And for people to feel comfortable working hard for the party, they need to know that their energies can be put towards something that they can't support. And to me, the solution to this problem is quite simple. We should adopt a statement of principles for our party, which resolves some of the more divisive ambiguities created by the affirmation statement, but a statement that is protected from frequent and arbitrary change by a supermajority threshold. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bryce. We'll go to Dane now, speaking opposition to the motion, and if people would like to speak after that, I can, just go ahead and start a lineup if anyone wants to speak either in favor or in opposition. You can raise your hand or you can say something in the chat box, but I'll go to Dane now.
Okay. Can everybody hear me clearly? If you can't, just tell me because of the way I'm using my mic. I think Bryce made a good pitch about statement of principle solving problems, but we actually have examples in other third parties. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that the Libertarians and the Greens are the two most significant third parties in America. The Libertarians have a strong statement of principles. This bylaws proposal is a pretty close clone of theirs. And they're a total basket case of crazy people who can't get along. And the Green Party, whether you agree with them or not, are pretty unified about their goals and don't have one. The piece of paper isn't a magic solution. And I think focusing on the piece of paper as a solution is a distraction. I'm really hoping this does not become the every single convention topic, because killing it at this convention won't stop it from coming back again and again and again. But I hope we develop a sense that this isn't a productive use of time. So I, in principle, think this is a mistake. I know some people who are co-sponsors have said things that make me think they aren't really comfortable with the supermajority factor. Like maybe, I don't know if they've changed their mind or thought this motion was something different. I don't know. But I don't think this is productive. It's not going to actually advance the goals we think it's going to advance. Yield my time.
Okay, I'm going to now go to Monica.
Yeah, I'm probably one of the people you were just talking about, Dane. I am in favor of this because what this is a first step to be looking at the statement of principles of this convention. I disagree to an extent with Bryce on its function. I think a statement of principles would be a fantastic thing to have. It is something that shows where we're united. I agree with him on that point, that people can look and say, hey, I belong in this party. I questioned when I ran in 2017 whether I belonged in the party because it veered very far to the left and that wasn't my position. And the affirmation statement wasn't enough. So this is kind of a middle ground between the affirmation statement and the platform. It does not go against the platform. I personally do not see it as being a super platform. But by passing this, we're simply opening it up to look at it for the rest, to look at it at this convention, and then the other tweaks that will come along and votes later, my one that Eric mentioned, that comes later. So this is just saying, hey, let's talk about it. This might be a good idea. Let's not kill it. Let's take a look and see what we can do with this, because I think it could be a real benefit in some form to the party. I yield my time.
Just as an information to Monica, you weren't actually someone I was thinking of on that.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, I must have had a big ego. Sorry, Dane.
All right, let's go to, let's see. Yeah, so the only hand I have right now is Dave Beauvais. So, oh, well, I saw Albert's hand up as well. Did one of you want to speak in opposition to the motion?
I did. Bryce, Dave Beauvais.
Okay, yeah, well, you were the first hand anyway, so go ahead.
Well, I have a couple of points. In addition to what Dane said, One thing that's mentioned about this statement of principles is that it's not to be used as a litmus test, although I think as something that's almost unchangeable. According to the proposal, it's supposed to be 7/8 vote. It will be the most unchangeable thing that we have in the party, and I think will kind of unintentionally, if that's the word for it, serve as a litmus test anyway. Also, I think I disagree with Dane's analysis, or with Bryce's analysis of the problem here. It seems that he's perhaps going back to 2017, where there were people in the party that had quite different ideas from other people in the party, and there was a big fight. And the people that were defeated for the NC the next year left the party, which did happen. But it seems, very fortunately, and thank God for that, that the party has been quite unified the last few years, and I don't see the kind of internal divisions that are referenced by Bryce in his statement. I think we have a pretty good identity, and our problem now is to grow. And I think we need a broad tent, a big tent party that would be open to people's different points of view, and an unofficial litmus test might limit that. Thirdly, I think a simple slogan, as I've mentioned in several posts, pro-life and pro-social and/or economic justice, defines our party, quite simply and quite boldly in relation to other political parties. The three, major ones: the Democrats, who are, pro-social justice but also pro-choice. The Republicans are, pro-life and pro-laissez-faire. The Libertarians, pro-laissez-faire and pro-choice. Liberal, social liberal. So that's sufficient, I think. And the most successful third parties are ones that have had short, simple slogans. The Republican Party in the United States was the last third party to be successful in moving into a major party status, and they started out with just a simple platform being against the Kansas-Nebraska Act, and then they, of course, added things later on. Other parties have been, the Free Soil Party was free soil, free speech, free men. Usually three things are good. To take a very different example, the Bolsheviks were peace, land, and bread. Very simple slogans that state your positions and distinguish you from other parties are often very successful. So I'll leave it there.
All right, thank you, Dave. Let the record reflect that David was praising the Bolsheviks' political practice.
No!
All right. So next I'm going to go to Albert, and then I'll try to move through everybody as much as I can. We'll have to cap debate eventually, but for now we're good. So I'll go to Albert next.
Yeah, so Chair, this is a point of information.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is regarding the context of this proposal in the light of prior party practice. It is proposed that it will be unchangeable by a supermajority, and some have thrown around 7/8 or so forth. My question is regarding, is it the intention that this is to be a new sort of proposal that is unchangeable by a supermajority, or has that in fact been used by the party in the past on other parts of its organization and identity?
So currently, in order to change the bylaws of the party, a supermajority is required. So, things like the structure and role of the NC and the convention and state chapters and all of those kind of structural things already require a supermajority to change. Also, the platform requires a supermajority to change if it is not in a presidential election nomination convention. So this actually applies to this convention because we already nominated our candidate last year. So those things require supermajorities separately from other kinds of resolutions that the convention could pass.
And what is the percentage of that supermajority?
It's 2/3 in both cases.
So this would be much higher.
Well, there are different proposals for the threshold, but yeah, I know Bryce has thrown around 7/8, and we've seen some other proposals. But yeah, currently the highest supermajority to change anything from the convention's point of view in the platform or bylaws is 2/3.
Thank you, and I yield back my time.
Okay, I know I've got a lot of hands here. I'm going to try to handle this, as fairly as I can in order. I'm going to go to Carter now.
Let me unmute and turn my camera on. I'm eating supper, so I figured you didn't want to see that, so I turned the camera off. I want to say that there are a couple of things that Bryce pointed out that I think are important to note. One of them is that this particular motion does not set out what the supermajority is. While I am comfortable with a supermajority, I'm much more comfortable with a 2/3 supermajority than a 7/8 supermajority. So I'm on here as a co-sponsor, but not a co-sponsor for 7/8. I do think I think the idea of a slogan to be a marketing idea and a way to capture people's attention is good. But I also think that we need something succinct that we can use to help. It's an elevator pitch, but less than an elevator pitch. An idea of defining who we are as a party. The platform is great, but the platform is about policies and not principles. And a statement of principles is definitionally about principles. I do think that it's something that we need, and I would like to see this convention go on record in supporting it. I am not entirely sure that any of the proposals that have been put forward are the right answer. And I'm not sure that this is the right moment to hash out all of the language. But I would like to see this convention go on board in supporting a statement of principles, pardon the pun, in principle. I yield back my time.
All right, thanks, Carter. Yeah, so I think most of you guys have been doing this, but just keep in mind we're going to try to keep our comments to about 2 minutes apiece. Let's see. Desmond had a point of information, and then we'll go to Reynard. Desmond, go ahead. Desmond, you here?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry. Dane, you said that the Green Party does not have a statement of principles, but isn't there a set of 10 key values about the same thing?
I don't believe it has the same structural status within the party that what we're saying is.
What might be the difference, in your opinion?
Good question. I've gotten most of my pitch about how the other parties do it from Bryce.
Oh, okay.
Well, Bryce, do you have anything to say about the Green Party before we move on?
I was looking it up to double check. I know that the Libertarian Party, for all their flaws, is still together after 40, 50 years, despite having those challenges.
I'm
I know
really
that.
disappointed if no one moves to feed in the other delegates to an alligator.
Second.
And the Constitution Party is having a split this year, or last year, I guess.
If we ever nominate the likes of Gary Johnson, I hope God strikes us down before we grow past that.
But
what about Don Blankenship? I mean, he aside from being pro-life, he's worse than Gary Johnson.
But I don't. Yeah. So the answer is I don't know about the. I believe in my bylaws review that the Green Party does not protect the 10 key values with a supermajority. I think that this is a pretty new thing for them, and I will note that the Green Party has shifted direction somewhat over their history. It was less than 10 years ago that Roseanne Barr was a viable candidate for their party, and now she's been ostracized by everyone. So,
all right. Okay. So, point of information answered. Let's go to Reynard.
Okay. Thank you.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Reynard, but I just wanted to mention that you should ask for anyone speaking against first.
Well, are you sure? Because I thought the last person like didn't. Anyway, the way I was keeping track of it, I thought we were overdue for someone speaking in favor, but
The last person to speak was Carter, and he was speaking in favor.
okay. Well, does anyone else want to speak in opposition to the motion?
Hey, Skylar.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
All right. We'll let Skylar, then we'll go to Reynard.
Okay, very briefly, I do think we should vote soon, but I just really think that the more time we spend on this, it really detracts from the efforts at actual party organizing. It's focusing far too inward, and I think especially after hearing the speeches of someone like Leah Labresco, it is more of a time to focus on the outward building of community, and I don't believe that the statement of principles contributes to that.
Okay, Reynard, you can speak now. I'm sorry for the confusion on that, but go ahead.
Oh, no problem at all. What I wanted to say basically is that the statement of principles, from my understanding, is a statement that we have principles that we will or already adhere to. Because we are a political party that are based off of principles, I don't think there should be a controversy with principles, but I want to state two things that a statement of principle does. One, like Bryce says, it helps to kind of coalesce around ideas that we can share with others, but at the same time, it allows debate about how to best implement those ideas. The other thing that it does is it prevents, or at least is a safeguard against a kind of democratic centralism that you have with some parties that have principles, that have principles. So in order to enforce orthodoxy, there's two ways: either one, to have no orthodoxy, or two, to have a structure at the top and they pretty much tell everybody how we carry out our ideology or what Christian democracy is, or whatever the case may be. I believe that both of those options are unacceptable to an American style of party. And I think that by having principles that we can coalesce around, we prevent going in both directions, both to the, I guess you might say, to the right and to the left. And I yield my time there.
Okay, thank you, Reynard. So I've got a couple of hands from Tai Chi and from Alan. Did either one of you want to speak in opposition to the motion?
I'd like to speak in opposition.
Okay, I'll go to Alan first, and I'd like to say I'm probably going to draw the discussion to a close after this, so just these two guys, and then we'll like move to a vote, please. Go ahead, Alan.
Just briefly, I think that we're talking a lot of de jure versus de facto, and in the end, a statement of principle is going to ultimately function de facto like a litmus test if we are indicating that it's going to be the supermajority held document that's going to overarch and guide our thinking processes on these things. So it's already going to become a litmus test then. It's going to be very difficult to change. But on the flip side, we've been talking a lot about that versus the platform. And ultimately, the platform are, yes, policies, but they're policies that reflect positions. I mean, we have the positions in some ways already as a reflection of the affirmation statement. The policies build from that in the platform and ultimately already reflect then what we stand for and believe. And I yield my time.
Okay, Tai Chi, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Patrick. So real quickly on point of information, so I'd like to just ask the question. So with the Libertarian Party as well as with the Green Party, so with the Libertarian Party's statement of principles, has there ever been a record of that statement getting revised since it was originally passed that is known? And also similar with that, with the Green Party's 10 points. Do we know of that ever having been revised over time?
I'm pretty confident that the Libertarian Party Statement of Principles that was adopted in 1972 is the same statement of principles that they have today. I'm not aware of when the Green Party's 10 key values came into existence, so I couldn't tell you if it's ever been revised.
If I may, I'm just looking at the, sorry, if I may, I'm just looking at the website for the Green Party right now with the 10 key values, and there's a disclaimer at the bottom that says the 10 key values of the Green Party were originally ratified at the Green Party Convention in Denver, Colorado in June 2000. There is no authoritative version of the 10 key values. They are guiding principles that are adapted and defined to fit each state and local chapter.
All right, so thank you for that clarification, Matt.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna allow Vincent standing in for Jeff Culbreth to speak about the motion real quick, and then I am gonna bring it to a vote.
The reason I wanted to talk was because I come from New York, where minor party candidates were very important and very influential, and were successful on many occasions in affecting elections. Notably, there was at least one U.S. senator and a couple other elections that were swung by either the liberals or the conservatives. I don't know. I've never read their statements of whatever, but it never came up. They were not that well defined. There were not a set of very well defined positions that you had to hold in order to be in those parties. The key to their success was their willingness to, on the one hand, maintain their ideal, and on the other hand, compromise if necessary. So, I think that's really the best path for success for a minor party like this one. And I think that argues against a rigid purity test, because frequently what you have to do if you're going to follow that strategy is to endorse people who don't agree with you on everything, but where one of the candidates who's likely to win is willing to buy into enough of your positions that that you think that he or she is significantly better than the other. That's all I wanted to say. I was involved in some of those campaigns. I was at the headquarters when they used to win these elections, and I participated in a lot of these, and I was on the inside of a lot of these discussions. And that's the way it really happens. And the difference between them and the Greens, for example, is the Greens are basically a one-party thing, right? And so are some of these other parties. And I don't think they're good comparisons with what we are. We're not a one-issue party.
Okay, thanks, Vincent. I'd like to go ahead and bring this to a vote. I believe it has been moved and duly seconded. Everett, if you've got that information, since we're trying to record that. All right, I have no illusions that we're going to be able to handle this by voice vote. So Bryce, could you get a link to the Zoyando in the chat for everyone to use?
I guess if Bryce or somebody can send a Facebook message with the link, that would help.
I was muted. It's already in the chat.
Okay, Skylar, were you saying you need someone to send it to you on Facebook? Is that easier?
Yeah, that would help a lot.
I will do that. I remember now that that's how it worked last year. So.
Okay, so everybody, the link is in the chat. It looks like it's not a hyperlink, so you might have to paste it into your browser. But and let us know if you have any trouble accessing it or using it.
I will note that based on my reading of Robert's rules, that we should actually not have had a column for abstain last year. That if you want to abstain, you just don't vote.
Okay, so there's.
You should probably still abstain, so when we know we're done so we know we're done.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's probably worth having an option for abstention just so we know that we're not waiting on people, because we're going to be doing that a lot.
This is Kathleen. For some reason, I don't have my hand signal thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you repeat the motion one more time?
Sure.
Or
yeah.
whoever's taking.
Can you see it on the screen in front of you? You can't see it? Okay. Yeah, Bryce is sharing his screen. So unless you've clicked on something else, you should be able to see it, but I'll read it. Resolved that it is, wait, I'm sorry, can you see it now? Are you good? You got yourself muted.
Yeah. Yes, I
Okay.
found it.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah, for future reference, I do think it would be good if we had abstain listed as an option, even if that's not required under Roberts, because we do want to make sure that everyone has had the opportunity to vote.
I'll say that I think that more than it being just not a requirement under Roberts, that Roberts would say that you can't compel anyone to vote. And
well, right, but it's it's just for our information. I mean, I guess if someone doesn't want to vote abstain either, they're not required to. But it would just be good to have to know that there's not people that we're still waiting on.
Yeah, I think the concern is that logistically, otherwise we're just, as Dane says, we'll just be waiting in that case because you don't want to close the poll if someone's still debating and intends to vote.
okay, yeah, I can make sure that happens in the future.
Let's see. So is my vote in now? I just want to make sure I'm using this correctly.
Yes, Skylar, your vote is recorded as no.
Patrick, this is Everett.
Go ahead.
I just want to confirm it. The vote, the record of this vote is going to be preserved on this other website. Is that right?
I'm not sure if that's the case or not. Bryce, do you know? Are we having like something saved on Zoyando for all these votes?
So I went through the minutes from last year.
Yes, it will be saved on Zoyando.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Everett, best practice, you should copy the link into your minutes so that people can click it from your minutes.
Okay. All right. I'll include the link, but I will not be making any additional effort to preserve the information on that website. I will trust that it is in fact staying on that website.
And of course, we'll have a record of of the video itself we're recording. So it's not like there's going to be no record of any of the votes. Yeah, James, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I voted wrong. I meant to do no. I think I'm as a yes. So I don't know if I can fix that somehow.
You should be able to go back to that page, and you should be able to edit your vote.
Awesome. Let me figure that out.
Up until the point when Patrick declares the vote closed and I lock this, you can change your vote.
Okay, well, I'll let James change his vote, and if there's anybody who still has not voted yet, and then we will call it momentarily.
I can't, this is Dave Bove. I can't find how to vote here.
Okay, so are you, let's see, are you, where are you now? Were you able to get through the website using the link?
No.
Okay, do you see where,
I just sent you a link. I just sent you a link that, yeah, Desmond showed me how to make it. So it's a hyperlink. So you should be able to just click that and it will take you to where you need to.
Okay, yeah, you see it in the chat box there?
All right, now I got it.
Yeah, once it's there, you type your name on the bottom and then vote.
I have to find my name.
You should just,
at the bottom.
Yeah, you have to type in your name.
Oh, I have to type in my name. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll type in your name, and then you'll check the box on the left for yes, or the box on the right for no, and then click save, and then your vote will be recorded.
It's a little bit of an honor system, but I think we'll figure it out pretty quickly if somebody shows up with a two votes on under one name that somebody's trying to.
Yeah. Don't do that, by the way.
All right, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anybody who is here who has not had the opportunity to vote yet or is not finished? Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and call it.
I think everyone is here. I think there's 2 people missing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And there are 3 votes. So.
Right. Okay. In that case, the motion passes 19 to 12. We can record that, and Everett, if you'll just put the link in the minutes so that people can look at the detailed breakdown, but you don't have to record it beyond that, of course. All right. So motion carries. Let's go to the next item on the agenda. This is a motion sponsored by Dane and by Bryce on vendors with values. Bryce, will you put the text of the motion up for us?
Origin has started screen share.
So, whereas the corporation is the ASP purchases firm has signed on to a statement declaring that abortion is necessary for equality in their workforces. What was that statement called, incidentally, if anyone was interested in it? What was that called again? I can't remember. Anyway, for what it's worth, there was such a statement.
That would be the don't ban equality statement.
Yeah, don't ban equality, right. And whereas other corporations, the ASP purchase firm has signed on to a statement stating that all businesses lack conscience rights for participation in same-sex marriages, and whereas the corporations that use union labor are more ethical participants in the national economy, therefore resolved that party organs are directed when feasible to avoid using vendors that support values contrary to the parties, such as, but not limited to, Zoom, which we are currently using, and Slack. Further resolved that when feasible, party organs should seek out vendors that have unionized workforces and actively support party values. So I guess
I'll move this to.
Okay. Yeah. So do we actually need someone to move it every time we have something on the agenda, or can we assume that it is presumptively moved by the people who sponsored it?
I don't think so. I would second the motion to that effect.
Yeah, you'd have to make an emotion to do it that way.
Okay. Well, I will allow someone to move.
This is Carter. I move that if something is on the agenda has been presented to us and presented in a written form, that we can assume that it is moved and seconded by any sponsors and or co-sponsors.
Yeah, Bryce.
Point of order. We can't actually do that motion until we've dispensed with this motion.
Okay, that's fine. We'll handle it afterwards then.
Also, we have proposals without delegate sponsors.
Okay, well, if there are proposals without delegate sponsors, then we'll have a separate rule for that. But anyway, we'll address that after this motion. Bryce has moved it. Does anyone second the motion that's in front of us?
Dane.
Did Dane second?
I believe sponsored or seconded the motion.
I seconded it, I think, and you moved it, or vice versa.
Yeah. Either one. Okay.
I don't care how you recorded, Everett.
Okay. Yeah, we'll address the issue with trying to shorten this afterwards. Okay, so the motion has been moved and seconded. Does anybody want to speak either in favor or in opposition of the motion? Taichi, I see you have your hand up.
I'll speak in opposition.
Okay.
So I'm not necessarily against the ideals of the statement. I'm just more so against this because for some of these tools, it's very difficult to use an alternate. People have proposed an alternative for Zoom, but every instance where I've used one has not been pleasant. So, so I think if we are to do this, and I'm very cautious about it, we would want to thoroughly test a Zoom replacement with a webinar capability, with recording capability, because a lot of what we do with Zoom is record these videos and then we post it onto YouTube, and we splice those videos as well. The recordings are already they're automatically made available to us. So there's a lot of things that's, you know, like, yes, I agree with getting rid of it if possible, but these things are, yeah, these things do improve the quality of what we do significantly right now. So if we move forward with this, I urge a lot of caution, and I'm going to vote against it because I'm not necessarily that confident in that caution being observed.
Okay, Carter.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like that this should be maybe a no-brainer for us on two counts. First of all, I mean, the fact that these corporations have signed this is a significant issue. I mean, we're currently using a platform which has said that they don't feel as if our voice is a legitimate voice in the public sphere. Also, having coming out of more democratic side of politics, you know, when I've worked in other campaigns, if you didn't have a union bug on your printed materials, it was a death sentence. And I certainly am in favor of the further resolution that we should use unionized workforces. I do think, to Tai Chi's point, that when feasible phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. And at the moment, it may not be feasible to use something other than Zoom that has the needs that we have. But I do feel as if we should go on the record saying that we're gonna shop our values. We're asking people to vote their values. Why can't we shop our values? I yield my time.
Okay, I have several hands raised. Does anyone want to speak in opposition to the motion? Okay, I see Tyler is. So yeah, Tyler Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a comment with regard to the further resolution regarding preferentially seeking out unionized vendors to speak against it. There are many industries in our country where unions aren't common, and I think it's not perhaps a good idea to say that we're going to preferentially seek out union workers or union companies, but instead to say that we have a preference for them as opposed to specifically seeking them out.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. I'm going to go to Ryan now.
Yeah, so I broadly agree with what Carter had to say on this issue, but just briefly, I would like to reiterate that if we as a party are firmly committed to certain values, I think it's binding on our conscience as a party to act out those values ourselves as an institution, as an organization, if we expect any of our individual party members and voters to act on them by supporting us. So I think a resolution to this effect shows, if nothing else, our commitment to those values, even when it might not necessarily be to our advantage, because we care more about the values we support than what's easiest or most economical for us. I yield my time.
Okay. I don't see any other hands raised besides Esther, so Esther, go ahead.
Sorry, who just spoke?
That was Ryan Governell.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so a couple of people have kind of said the same thing, but I definitely support this idea, but I wonder if it's possible. I guess I don't know the procedure, but that when feasible bit, I don't know if we should elaborate on that at all, as far as, because that's kind of where the meat of it is, right? Like, does when feasible mean when there's no significant difference, or does it mean when it doesn't like totally cripple us, or, you know, like that's kind of, I think, where the point of contention is that Ty was talking about. So I don't know if that would be something to bring up in an amendment after this passes, or like, I'm just not quite sure how that happens.
Bryce, do you want to address the question of bringing up an amendment during the proceedings?
Yes. So this is, if you think that something should be done, something should be edited, you should propose an amendment before this gets passed. If it gets passed, then it is, then we move on. So Yeah. So if you can come up with something now, I suppose we could always do something like tabling this until, or suspending consideration until tomorrow night to give you time to think up an amendment.
No, I don't think I need that much time. I would just argue that instead of something like feasible, which is leaves a lot of room for interpretation, says something like when it does not significantly hurt the ability of the party to do its work, right? Because that's what feasible means in this case. Not just like if it's slightly inconvenient, it means, if using a different thing than Zoom would cripple our meetings, then that's not feasible. But like to actually say that in the resolution or in the motion, instead of leaving that open for discussion.
So if I understand you right, you are proposing an amendment to change both instances of when feasible to when it does not significantly hurt the party.
Yeah, hamper the efforts of the party.
I'll second. This is Tai Chi.
Okay, so if someone can write that out in text form, just so we have it. The proposed amendment is to strike when feasible, both instances in the resolution, and support with does not significantly
hamper the efforts of the party.
Hamper the efforts of the party. Yeah. Okay, so ordinarily.
Point of information.
Yeah, Monica,
or just a question about this. Do we vote on the amendment separately from the original one? Do we have our choice between the two?
That's
how that works.
So Bryce, can it be accepted on the spot as a friendly amendment? And then if it's not, we have to put it to a vote, or if someone objects, we put it to a vote. Is that how it works?
Right. So I would accept this as a friendly amendment. If anybody wants to object to that, they may, and we can put this to a vote.
I'd like to make.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to Esther's friendly amendment. I'm suggesting the word inhibit instead of hamper. I think it's a little more elegant that way.
Esther, do you accept?
I do.
Okay. All right. We'll go with inhibit. So Bryce has accepted the amendment. Does anyone object to that change to the motion before we bring it to a vote? Oh, I see Alan is giving us a point of parliamentary procedure there. Current motion needs to be suspended or acted upon before it can be amended.
Patrick, it may be acceptable if the parties that made the original motion wanted to all accept it as a friendly amendment, but otherwise you would normally
you go ahead, Alan. Normally we would do what?
You would have to either suspend the motion as indicated and then make it again with the amendment, or vote up or down on this as it stands.
Okay. What were you going to say, Bruce?
So I think Alan was saying that that if the original parties were okay with it, that we wouldn't have to go through that.
Right.
Correct. But so Dane would have to.
Correct, Alan?
Correct. But so Dane is also co-sponsoring with you. I would imagine would need to approve that as a friendly amendment as well.
No, I don't approve. I don't necessarily. I'll accept it as friendly if no one else objects to save time, but our usual practice has been to allow amendments, vote on the amendment, go back to the motion. Despite some other parliamentary procedures, what Esther's doing is our usual practice.
This is my first, so I apologize.
Oh, okay, so are we willing to dispense with having to have a separate motion to suspend a motion before amending it?
Since there's no official parliamentarian, I would argue that if this is your normal practice, then that's acceptable.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good.
Just to respond.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. It's a technical point. I'll talk to Dane about it after this meeting.
Okay. All right. All right. So go.
Patrick, this is Everett.
Yeah,
I just want to clarify that if a moving delegate treats a secondary amendment as friendly, then there is no vote. We're not treating that as a vote on the secondary amendment. It is just it sort of it has always been the original amendment, or no, excuse me, the original motion. It just
Right.
becomes the original.
Ordinarily, what you would want to do is have the original text and then record what the amendment is, and then say the amendment was accepted. So that then you could say then the amended motion was voted on.
Just for my purposes, in terms of what people are wanting actually memorialized, is are we saying that basically, if the motion comes, the motion comes before the body, there's sort of a working period in which the moving party has opportunities to change it around, and then right before the vote, that is the motion, and that is the text of the motion that's actually voted on? Okay. All right. So I'm not going to independently record then each time the moving delegate changes their own motion, unless there's a desire for me to.
Okay. Did anyone else want to jump in on that? Okay.
This is Josh Perkins. I
Yeah,
would suggest that all amendments to a motion be recorded.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone was suggesting we wouldn't record the amendments, were we? Or I don't know what.
I think you should. What you might want to just say is there was a friendly amendment. Just note in the minutes that there was a friendly amendment by Esther, and then there was a friendly amendment by Tony.
So that's so I can record every time someone made a friendly amendment that was accepted by the moving delegate as a friendly amendment. I would appreciate if everyone moves slowly. And so if 3 or 4 people right in a row say, hey, what about this word? What about that word? If people want me to record each one of those independently as a friendly amendment, then just speak slowly so that I can do so.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Everett. So Desmond also wanted to talk about an amendment to the proposal.
Yes. So my amendment, my suggestion was that, to Tai Chi's point, we probably won't apply this to Zoom because of our benefits that we get from using Zoom. So I think it would be desirable to remove the such as but not limited to Zoom and Slack, because that those words imply that this would probably apply to Zoom. And an additional change in reference to what Tyler said about unionized workforces, I think it might be better to not be specific about party values, but just state support of party values. So I would propose removing the words "have unionized workforces" and. So we're just referencing party values in general.
Point of order. We're debating Esther's amendment, which had a friendly amendment from Tony, but no one seconded Esther's proposal. So Esther's proposal isn't actually under debate.
No, I
Esther
actually seconded it.
You did,
seconded
okay.
it.
Then it's a real second amendment. Then it's a real secondary amendment, but Esther's proposal is under debate, not the main proposal.
Okay.
Amendments to the main proposal aren't germane.
Okay. Well, has anyone objected to Esther's proposed amendment? Because otherwise I think we're just going to move forward with it. And then we can consider other amendments to the original proposal like Desmond has brought up. Okay. If that's the case, then,
does her amendment need a second?
it has been seconded.
All right.
Yeah. In that case, we'll consider that a friendly amendment added to the original proposal. Desmond would like to bring in another. Yeah, Bryce, go ahead.
Yeah. So, with regards to Desmond's thing, I will not accept the first part as a friendly amendment, and suspect other people will not accept the second part as a friendly amendment. And so, I think we should, if we want to put those, we should cover them separately. Yeah.
Okay, so the amendment is not accepted as friendly. Does someone nonetheless want to second Desmond's proposed amendment? Because then we can discuss it and bring it to a vote.
I'll second.
Okay, Tai
Oh,
Chi.
well, yeah, we can give it to Dr. Martin.
Okay. Well, all right. We'll give it to. All right. So Tyler Martin has seconded Desmond's motion to second motion. I sound like Smokey Robinson here. Desmond has seconded. No.
So I move to divide the question.
Okay. So, all right. So does that procedurally come before the seconding of the motion?
I thought you already did the seconding of the motion.
Well, okay. Yeah, we just now did. Tyler seconded the motion. Bryce moves to separate the question.
Yeah. So
I would
Second
second
Bryce's motion.
separating it.
Okay. Was that Kathleen? Who was that? Or was that Monica?
Esther.
Oh, that's Esther. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So Esther second separating the question. Do we have to vote on separating the question?
I'll defer to Ellen if he knows better.
I have no
but I believe that that's
I object. We should vote to kill both aspects of this in one go. I don't know that anyone has major split opinions.
I do. Esther
I
does.
did. Bryce does.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm going to call for a vote on separating the question. So basically what this means is there were two parts of, this is getting like Russian nesting dolls, but Desmond's amendment was he wanted to cut the such as but not limited to Zoom and Slack in the first part of the motion. And then he also wanted to cut that have unionized workforces and in the second part of the motion. The proposal is to deal with those separately. So if you are if you vote yay, you were saying I want to talk about those as two separate questions, two separate votes. If you vote nay, you're saying we have to vote them up or vote them down together. With that in mind, the motion to consider them separately has been made and seconded. I'm going to do a voice vote first and see if we can do it that way. All in favor of separating the question?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
I think the ayes have it. Are we willing to accept that? Because if not, we'll have to go to Zoyando again.
This is just separating the question, right?
Right, this is separating the question.
I'll let the ayes win to save time.
Okay, all right, thank you, Dane. So we are separating the question, which means we now have to vote on the two separate parts of Desmond's amendment. They don't have to be seconded again, is that correct?
Doesn't the record already contain seconds for both of them?
Well, it contains a second for Desmond's original motion.
It's the same issue that will receive two votes.
Right, so can't we just treat the both individual parts as being motioned and seconded by the same people?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I don't know. I'm not a Roberts expert. Okay, if that's the consensus, then we'll go ahead and move to a vote on the first part. So the first part of
Point of order.
Yeah, go ahead, Bryce.
That's I mean, we should have some discussion on it.
Okay, that's fair. So the first part of Desmond's proposed motion, so the first part of Desmond's proposed amendment to the original motion is to cut the phrase such as but not limited to Zoom and Slack. So removing the specific reference to Zoom and Slack. Bryce, go ahead.
Yeah, so I put this in here specifically. I think that there are acceptable alternatives to Zoom and Slack. We already pay for Zoom. There are paid alternatives such as Microsoft Teams, such as Google Meet, such as, well, mostly those two. And I think that we've not moved ourselves into looking at these alternatives because there's been no impetus. And I think putting this in here says, no, you need to look at these alternatives to these two things. I yield my time.
Okay, thanks, Bryce. Does anyone want to speak in favor of this part of the amendment? Yeah, William Campbell, go ahead.
I'm in favor because at this point, Zoom does not meet those standards. And there may come a time when they change their position again. And that would then require us to change bylaws. I'm in favor of removing this section for simplicity and clarity and the charity that Zoom and Slack may in the future rectify their decision. I yield my time.
Okay, thanks. Just as a point of information, so this wouldn't go into the bylaws. This is just a standing resolution, kind of directing the NC. But you know, the
I understand. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's all I wanted to say. Okay. Does anyone want to speak in opposition to the first part of the amendment?
Well,
sorry, who was that?
oh, this is Dane.
Yeah, go ahead, Dane.
Back to William's point, if they change their values, this is not a hard ban, though it says when feasible, and it's such as Zoom and Slack. If the whereas stops applying, it will stop applying to them. Like, it's not a hard ban Zoom resolution. But I know Desmond brought up, like, we'd have the choice. If I'm elected to the NC, I'm firing Zoom. Like, it's a bad service. We should get rid of it. And I think what Ryan said before, like, we need to deal with people who talk about our values. This guts the resolution and renders it pointless. Yield balance of time.
Okay, thanks, Dane. Does anyone else want to speak in favor of the amendment, which is to say to cutting that language? Yeah, Tai Chi, go ahead. And I'd probably like to bring it to a close soon, unless there are, you know, a lot of more people lined up.
All right. So my reasoning for speaking in favor of this is so specific examples of using Zoom alternates. Some of the issues that we came across are bandwidth issues, even in meetings of like 5 people. So here we have a meeting of 30 people. I've never seen another similar service do this as well. But yeah, again, we would want to rigorously test large meetings if we are to move away from Zoom. So I just caution doing so arbitrarily, or not arbitrarily, but I caution doing so like quickly and without that testing.
Okay. Does anyone else want to speak in opposition to the amendment before we move forward? If not,
Patrick, this is Everett.
Yeah, go ahead, Everett.
Just a couple housekeeping things before we get too far by. I missed who made the motion to separate the question. Who made that motion?
That was Bryce, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And then it was seconded by Esther, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then when we go to the second part of the question, if we could put up onto the screen or highlight on the screen the portion of the text that's at issue in the second part, that would also be helpful to me.
Okay. Yeah. Good idea. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I'd like to go ahead and move to a vote on the separated first part of the amendment. So that's the question of cutting the Zoom and Slack language. I think it may save time to just do this in Zoyando, so we're going to try to do really fast. Bryce, will you put that up?
I was not anticipating that, but I do have it ready.
Well, while you're doing it anyway, I guess I could take a voice vote. And we'll see if it's decisive.
I got it.
Okay, all right. So yeah, everybody just go.
Patrick, what are we voting
Hey,
on?
Bryce, don't forget to include the HTTP.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, it's not a hyperlink. It's just yeah. Give Bryce.
There you go.
Okay, yeah. So the hyperlink is there. You can vote on it. To answer the question, Carter asked. So this is considering the first part of Desmond's amendment, and what it would do is cut the language "such as but not limited to Zoom and Slack" from the original motion. So it's cutting the language that specifically names those 2 companies, those 2 products.
So yes means cut it, or yes means don't cut it?
Yes means cut it. Yeah. If you vote yes, you want to cut that language from the amendment. If you vote no, you don't want to cut it. So yeah, it's a little counterintuitive. But no means keep it. Yes means cut it.
Esther, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, like that cutting the language of the specific names doesn't necessarily mean we wouldn't look at Zoom, but that it wouldn't, the text wouldn't be in the motion specifically, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, just by cutting the language doesn't necessarily mean that the motion wouldn't apply to them. We're just not calling them out in the motion.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Looks like we have about all the votes in. Is anybody still working on it? Okay, if that's the case, then I'm going to go ahead and call it. The vote is 19 in favor to 12 opposed. So that part of the proposed amendment passes. The language about Zoom and Slack is cut from the original amendment.
Just for the record, it's 16.
16.
Say that again.
16 in favor.
Oh, 16 in favor. I'm sorry. I think I was looking at the old poll. For some reason, I didn't have the new one in front of me. My apologies. It's 16 in favor. How many opposed?
12.
12. Okay. For some reason, I think the hyperlink wasn't working for me or something. But okay, so we have 16 in favor, 12 opposed, 1 abstention. Although we don't have to record the abstention. So with that, we're going to move forward to the next part of the proposed amendment. And the next part of Desmond's amendment would cut the language vendors that have, that have unionized workforces and, so after the cut, it would just read party organs should seek out vendors.
Keep the word that.
Yeah, sorry, keep the word that. It would read vendors that actively support party values, sorry. So does anyone want to speak in favor of the second part of the amendment? Oh, I believe Tai Chi wants to offer a friendly amendment to the amendment, a secondary amendment. So go ahead, Tai Chi.
Yeah, so I believe that Dr. Martin's initial intent was not to cut out vendors with unionized workforces, but to instead of saying seek out, to strike to replace that language with favor vendors with unionized workforces, but retain that unionized workforces language there. So yeah, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to reflect that.
Okay, should favor. Okay, so the proposed amendment is to cut the cut and then change should seek out to should favor vendors that have unionized workforces and actively support party values. Desmond, are you inclined to accept that?
I am very in favor of that.
Okay, so Desmond would like to accept that. Does anyone object to that secondary amendment? Okay, if no one objects, then we will substitute.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Can you repeat what that was?
Sorry. So this amendment what it would do is the only thing that's being struck now is the word seek out. Should seek out is it was replaced with the word favor. Should favor vendors that have unionized workforces.
Okay. So since there are no objections, yeah, Vincent is asking, can we see it? So yeah, if you just want to, so where Bryce has highlighted the phrase seek out, that would be replaced with favor. So that's how the amendment would read now if no one objects. Since no one objects, we'll go back to the discussion. Would anyone like to speak either in favor, or I guess, yeah, we'll just start with in favor. Anyone want to speak in favor of this part of the amendment?
Matt wants to speak in favor.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. I think that the words "seek out" are a little too strong. Would imply that those who don't have unionized workforces and actively support party values would automatically be excluded. I think that favor is more appropriate for giving them more weight in terms of their consideration when it's feasible.
Okay. Does anyone? Okay, I see. Yeah, Carter wants to speak against the motion, so go ahead, Carter.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to instruct the National Committee to actively seek out vendors that have unionized workforces. I mean, favor is wishy-washy language. It's language that the National Committee, to whoever that's going to be, could equivocate on. I want to actively tell them to seek out vendors that are unionized workforces.
Okay.
Yield my time.
All right, thanks, Carter. Bryce, if you want to go ahead and prepare his Oyando vote, I think we'll need one. Does anyone else want to speak in favor of the motion before we go to Dominic, who's against? Tai Chi, did you want to speak in favor?
Well, yeah, I guess it's a point of information.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if the objection is that favor is too wishy-washy of a term, would prioritize be a better term that is acceptable by everyone. So instead of favor, prioritize.
Carter, do you want to respond to that?
I like seek out.
Okay. Well, so let's go ahead and address the text of the motion as it stands. Then let's go to Desmond in favor, and then we'll go to Dominic against. Bryce, did you have a point of information? Or? Okay, yeah, let's go to Desmond.
Okay, so I do definitely think that the National Committee should favor or seek out those with unionized workforces, but I think that that's one of our many party values, and I don't think it should have necessarily a higher status in the resolution than our other party values. We've got many. That's my motivation.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah, go ahead, Bryce.
To close off debate and vote.
Does someone want to second the motion to close debate?
Monica.
Carter seconds.
All right. I think Monica got in there first, maybe. All right. So I'll try to do it by voice vote real quick. All in favor to close off well, unless someone wants to debate the motion to close debate, or is that how that works? Yeah, I'll go ahead and bring that to a voice vote if there's no objection. All in favor of motion to close debate?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, we have a couple of nays, but I think the ayes have it. In that case, we're going to move to a vote on the second part of the motion. I had to think about where we were for a moment. So this is the second part of the proposed amendment to the original motion, which would change since the secondary amendment was passed. We'll change seek out to favor. So I believe Bryce has just put the Zoyando link up, so you can vote now. So we are now voting for the second part of the proposed amendment. What the amendment would do again is change seek out to favor. So if you vote yes, you're voting in favor of that change. If you vote no, it'll stay seek out in the original text of the motion. All right, is anyone still voting? So another couple of votes trickle in there.
There's 3 votes still outstanding, I think.
Yeah, but Bryce, I think at this point, if there's only 3, then
Oh yeah, I guess it's settled. So
It's a settled question regardless if you want to leave the poll open for a minute for people to get the final votes in if they haven't, just for the record. But so the motion, as it currently stands, the motion fails. So the substitution of favor for seek out will fail. So what we will now do is go back to the original motion, which should read as it is in front of you. Yeah, Bryce.
I'd like to make a motion to close off debate and move directly to voting.
All right. Do we have a second to close off debate?
Second. It's Carter.
Okay,
Is it
Carter.
time- would another amendment be in order, a proposed friendly amendment?
Somebody tell me.
Let me tell you my concerns so you can understand it. Many unions are very pro-abortion, like the National Educational Association, and I would not want to be required to favor a vendor
people can
with that kind of union.
Point of order.
Yeah, go ahead, Bryce.
Yeah, I think so. I think since the motion to call the question, motion to end debate has been made and seconded.
That counts as failed. Can keep voting for posterity, I guess.
Sorry, what are you saying, Dane?
Yeah, Dan, we didn't get that.
Did you see Josh?
Okay, Dan just dropped.
You see Josh's magic?
Yes, I did. I promoted him again. Okay. Looks like Dane dropped actually. Maybe he'll come back in a minute. Bryce, what were you saying about the motion to close debate?
That it's been made and seconded, so we can't, until we dispense with it, we can't hear a friendly amendment.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bryce. In that case, I'd like to go ahead and bring the motion to close debate to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Motion to close debate and move to a vote has passed, which means we will be voting on the text of the motion as it currently is. Yeah, Bryce, go ahead.
It takes a 2/3 margin to pass.
Close debate.
I believe so.
Okay. Does anyone think that we don't have a 2/3 majority and need to put it to a Zoyando vote? Because if not,
I think there's a question. I can't say, but I think there's a question about whether it's 2/3.
okay, if that's the case, Bryce. Okay, if that's the case, Bryce, would you put up another Zoyando vote to close debate real quick?
As much as I would have liked to just move on with it, it would not have been appropriate.
Okay. So. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Okay. Well, is that?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting it, so I'm good. So it will take me a second to actually make the poll.
Okay. Just one moment then.
Point of information.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
If we vote to close debate, could the friendly amendment be offered after that vote before we actually vote on the proposal itself?
I think the answer is no.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so this is closing debate and any future friendly amendments on this proposal.
Yes, I believe that's the case. So if you think that if you think that you still want to amend it, you would want to vote no on this. Yeah, that's actually something I was asking myself. Is there debate on a motion to close debate?
No.
That's a no. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any of our parliamentarians? That would make sense because otherwise that would become interminable. But
The vote is or the link has been posted.
okay. Yeah. So the link is in the chat box. If you guys want to do that real quick, this is the motion to close debate on the motion that's in front of you.
I'm not seeing it.
You don't see it in the chat box there?
It's from Bryce at 8:49 p.m.
For
Point of
9:40.
information, Patrick.
Uh-huh.
If we vote no to close debate, then can we go back to the question that can the amendment that was proposed be reactivated by the proposer?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, like a new amendment could be brought up, or we can continue to discuss the original motion. So
No, we immediately go to a vote on the proposal if we vote to close discussion.
okay.
But Dr. Martin, I think, was asking if we vote no on this thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Is there,
Sorry, the only poll I'm seeing is the one on the second part last time. I don't know why I'm not seeing. Oh, there we go. No, wait a minute. When I click on that, I get to the one we already voted on. I don't get.
yeah, I've had that
votes.
issue as well. Like there's some kind of weird thing with the links where it's sending me to like the wrong proposal.
Yeah.
One thing that you can do is instead of using the hyperlink, like actually copy and paste that link, and that seems to help for me. I don't know why. I think it might be with certain web browsers or something.
Nope, still not working. Still not working for me.
You copy and paste that link, and then it doesn't take you to a poll that says close debate on vendors with values.
No.
Okay.
So try where you have that Zwondo, close that browser window open all the way, and then click on the.
You can also just for anyone where it doesn't work, you may just put your vote on the record.
Okay, closing all the other windows worked. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I've been having that issue when I want to go look at the vote. There's some kind of problem with particular web browsers. I don't know what it is.
All right.
I think the vote has passed the 2/3 majority threshold at this point. I'm not sure if there are any votes outstanding.
All right, mine is because it actually, I thought it took me to the right thing, but it didn't. It took me to another closed poll. So it's all right. If it's already passed, that's fine. I'll just abstain.
What is your vote? I'll put it in there for you.
It was yes, it's fine.
Okay, well, I believe that takes us past the 2/3 threshold, given that we have a couple of abstentions. So with that in mind, we're now going to move to a vote on the original motion as amended, which is the text in front of you. Debate has been closed. So Bryce, can you put up another Zoyondo link for vote on the motion as amended?
Do you want to just voice vote this? I feel like this is going to pass pretty.
Yeah, you're probably right. In that case, so motion as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
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 Okay, I believe the ayes have it. So the amended motion passes by voice vote. So the next, those are all the motions, except I believe before we got into this, we wanted to address the question of whether people who sponsored the motions who were delegates could presumptively be considered to have been seconded them. Did someone want to address that? Yeah, Bryce.
Yes,
Bryce, go ahead.
I'll make that motion that motions that have been sponsored by a delegate will be presumptively moved by that delegate.
Okay.
And I'll second Ryan Governor.
Did we also do we want them to still have to be seconded, or did you want to say that if it's been co-sponsored, it's also seconded?
Yes, they should. I guess if they have two people listed, they can be listed as seconded. But
okay, so the motion is if a resolution has been sponsored by a delegate, it's presumptively moved, and if there's more than one person sponsoring it, it's been presumptively seconded. Bryce has moved it. I believe Ryan was the one that seconded it, or was it someone else?
No, that was me.
So Dominic has a point of information.
Yeah, Dominic, go ahead.
Will this be added to the rules that are automatically carried over as we voted at the beginning?
Yeah. So this I believe that this would be a change to the rules of order. So it would be a rule that would be automatically carried over.
Okay. Thank you. Can changes to the rules of order just be passed by a majority vote?
Yes.
Okay.
That is in the bylaws.
Okay. Does anyone want to speak either in favor?
And who seconded this?
Yeah, who seconded?
I did. Ryan Governor.
Right.
And I would like to speak in favor.
Okay, go ahead, Ryan.
We don't need to take up any more time than is absolutely necessary with this, I think. So proactively, if in advance we already have motions and seconds arranged, I don't think it's necessary to find other people to motion or to second in the call because it's already been done outside. So I think it's just an expedient that saves time.
Okay. Does anyone want to speak in opposition to the motion if you just really want to do that?
Just point of information. You're doing the second only when there aren't two sponsors, correct?
That's right.
For example, if there's one sponsor, you still need a second.
That is what has been moved, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, Joshua, go ahead.
Yes, if the sponsor or co-sponsor is not present at the meeting, then what would be the procedure there?
Bryce, what do you think?
I'm okay with. I don't know. I guess they can't have moved it if they're not here. If they have an alternate, I mean, I guess in that situation, they just don't. It isn't moved for them.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take long for us to move and second a motion. It's just it saves a little bit of time each time if we're able to do this. So yeah, Carter, go ahead.
Just a point of order. It looks like, looking at the list, that Skylar got kicked from panelist and is sitting in attendees. So we need to move him over. So if he's trying to get our attention to say something, he can.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. I didn't realize he had dropped from the call. All right. So Skylar should be back with us now. Okay. Does anyone else want to speak on this issue before we move it to a vote? Okay.
Only opposed because we had a deadline for motions on Monday, and we are wasting more time with new motions than we could possibly ever save on this motion. So no in principle.
Okay, thanks, Dane. All right, let's bring it to a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, the ayes have it. Bryce's motion respecting presumptive moving and seconding of motions is passed. So we are coming close to the amount of time that we had really budgeted for tonight. What I would like to do before we all call it a night is tomorrow morning, our primary task is going to be electing our NC members. I do not think we're going to get to any of that voting tonight, but what I would like to do before we all call it a night is the initial round of nominations for who we will be voting for. and also perhaps we can have our rules committee address how that election is going to go for those who may have missed it. We can have Bryce and Dane and anyone else that was on the rules committee talk about that. Bryce, do you want to talk about just about the voting procedures for National Committee first?
Yeah, sure. So we have 6 seats of the 9 seats on the National Committee. 6 are up for election. There will be four seats that have a 2-year term and 2 seats that have a 1-year term. Normally we'd only have one 1-year term, but since Alex Rasmussen has stepped down, we have to fill his seat, which was filled for a week by Brian Carroll. So each seat will be elected via a single winner election. We will have 6 elections, and delegates may only vote for candidates who have been nominated. To be elected, somebody has to get a majority of votes. Obviously, this isn't necessarily going to be the case. So the way that this will work, so we'll start with a round of nominations. People, be like, I nominate Patrick Harris for term on the National Committee or something like that. People will second the nominations, and then we'll move into a round of voting. We'll have a first round of voting with people voting for which of the candidates that were nominated they want. And if nobody gets a majority, then we'll move into I'm sorry, I moved on too fast. There will be a period of discussion before the vote. Then we move into the first round of voting. If nobody receives a majority of votes, we move into a second round of voting. If nobody receives any in the second round of voting, then all candidates receiving no votes in that round, as well as the candidate receiving the fewest amount of votes, will be eliminated from being nominated. And for subsequent rounds, the person with the lowest number of votes will be eliminated until somebody gets a majority of votes. And in the event of a tie for the fewest number of votes, we will vote on which candidate gets eliminated. So if in the first round there are a number of candidates who have a single vote, please just move to another candidate who has more support. We don't have to vote on which of the candidates tied at 1 vote gets eliminated. So once somebody gets a majority of votes, we will move into the period of nominations for the second seat, and then the third seat, and so on. Did I miss anything, Dane?
Not that I can think of. The people from the previous round, I believe, are presumably nominated again unless there are additional new nominations in the later round.
Okay, I see Esther has her hand up.
Yeah, I just have a question about when we're voting for the seats, are there just like sort of 6 equal seats and we just fill the slots, or is it like this seat is for this specific job, this specific position?
Right, under the bylaws. The bylaws recommendation that was put out by the bylaws committee recommended that we vote on specific positions, but the National Committee decided instead to pass a version of the bylaws that the National Committee would vote upon the seat on who got what position. So
got it. So we just
these
vote
are 6 equals.
Yeah, we just vote 6 people in, and then they decide who does what.
Well, yes. Except, right, you are voting separately on the 2-year seats versus the 1-year seats. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. They are not quite equal. There are 4 2-year seats and 2 1-year seats.
Okay, thank you.
Presumably, if no one objects to it, it will do the 4 2-year seats and then the 2 1-year seats.
And I heard that all the nominees carry over to, or presumed to carry over to the next election. So whoever isn't elected can also be voted on in the next election.
I mean, I think you would just make a motion to carry over the nominees.
Okay, I didn't know if that was in the rules or, okay.
It's not in the rules, but I mean, I have no objections to that.
Okay. So does anybody else have any questions about the National Committee voting?
Just one. Okay, so if the nominees carry over to the next one, are you still dropping the lower people, or does everybody carry over to the next one?
Everyone who was there at the start would carry over.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the dropping people only happens within the voting for each seat. So just because you get dropped during the election for one seat doesn't mean that you can't be voted on later.
Thank you.
There are still open seats. Okay, so before we go tonight, what I would like to do, just so we have it done and can, get started bright and early tomorrow, is I would like to take, I don't know how we need to procedurally do this, but I'd like to take nominations for the first seat on the first open seat on the National Committee. We will not vote tonight, but I'd like to take nominations for it. Bryce, go ahead.
So I guess just as a point of order, we would have to make the motion. So I move that we hold National Committee elections.
Seconded. Tony, get out.
Wait, do we have to according to the bylaws?
Objection.
Dane?
Elections are an item on the agenda that just we advance.
Okay.
I think. We're not actually moving anything. This isn't something we could like.
I don't know. I'm not well versed enough in Robert's rules to be able to tell you. I just assume that it's a motion, that everything is a motion. So
well, it's certainly the case that we can't not do it.
Everything is either, but
yeah.
Okay, so I moved to open nominations then.
Yeah, Carter, did you have a question before we move forward with that?
No, I had a nomination.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, so Bryce has moved to open nominations. Do I have a second?
Seconded. Tony Guidotti.
All right. I'm gonna consider that moved by acclamation in case, unless anyone objects. Bryce, go ahead.
I move to nominate Patrick Harris.
Seconded.
I wanted to nominate Patrick Harris. Boo! My hand was up before yours.
Let the record reflect Carter's objection.
I withdraw my nomination.
So I believe Carter has a nomination he wants to advance.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Patrick Harris to a two-year term.
Okay.
Seconded. Tony Guidotti.
Seconded by acclamation.
Okay, so that was Tony's second. So this will technically be for the first seat, which will be a 2-year term. So that'll be who we'll be voting on for this seat tomorrow. But also, again, the presumption is that everybody who is nominated, if they aren't elected to that seat, the nominations will carry forward. Bryce, go ahead.
So at this point, you should probably step aside.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll let you chair this portion for the moment.
So
I don't suppose there's a chance we could just elect Patrick by acclamation now.
So Carter, you still have your hand up. Do you want to have your hand up? Okay. Tai Chi, do you have something?
All right, as the current sitting treasurer of the American Solidarity Party, because said person had indicated an interest in becoming treasurer, I would nominate Tony Guidotti for a 2-year seat on the National Committee.
I'll second that.
I second the nomination, Joshua Perkins.
Sorry.
I didn't hear that second. Sorry.
That was Joshua Perkins.
Thanks.
Move to Tyler Martin.
I nominate Albert Thompson.
Seconded. Tony Guidotti.
Sarah Bork.
I nominate Carter McNeese.
Seconded. Tai Chi Kuo.
William Campbell.
I believe there's a point of information from Esther in the chat.
Oh. How does the spreadsheet of candidates People, yeah, so the point of information, people on the spreadsheet are people who either expressed interest themselves or other people expressed interest in them running. Although I do, and yeah, so yes, if you want one of them who's not already listed, you can just nominate them. Go ahead, Monica.
Well, the two that were on top of my list already got nominated just after I raised my hand again. So, but I will, let me go down here. I'm terrible with last names. I'm sorry if I get it wrong. I will nominate Sean. Is it Champagne?
Yes.
Sean? Okay, I'll nominate Sean.
I'll second Sean Champagne. Christy, you have the floor.
Who is the second there?
Bryce Morgan, sorry.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Michael Beard.
I'll second Michael Beard, Tony Guidotti.
All right. Dominic DiCarlo, you have the floor.
I nominate Dan Garrett.
I second Samuel Meist.
All right. Tai Chi.
I nominate Bonnie
You have the
Callis.
floor.
Yep, I nominate Bonnie Callis, even though she's in my state. I don't want to lose her.
I'll second that, Monica Solar.
David Bove.
All right, Lois Kirshen.
I'll second that.
I'll second that, Brian
Mosley.
Talbot.
Matt Bosley.
That was my intention as well. So you can.
All right. William Campbell.
I'd like to nominate Charlie Jenkins.
Second, Dane.
He seconds that nomination.
All right. Okay. Ryan Governal.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Albert Thompson. Apologies if somebody's already done that.
I think they already got done.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry
yeah,
about
he was
that.
nominated.
It's hard to keep track of who has and hasn't been nominated
Point of
yet.
information. Yeah, could we just get a list of who has already been nominated? I'm trying to check it off, but I'm missing.
Everett, do you want to read back the list of people who have been nominated?
Bryce, I missed a few myself. I was actually gonna go back and go to the video on that one when we were done.
Okay.
Sorry.
Would it be possible to?
Just so everyone, that went fast in terms of writing all that down. So I got some of it, but I'm gonna need to look at the video for all of that.
Bryce, would it be advisable to put up a screen share and then have a list, and then it's typed as people make nominations, and everyone can see it as we're going through?
I do have a list I jotted down as it went, which I can give you, and then somebody can fill in if I missed anyone.
I just
Would that
wrote
be
in the chat
acceptable?
what I had.
And I also have a list that I can add to the chat because I was typing too, or writing.
David Bove.
I nominate Kevin Maurer.
So I believe under Robert's rules, you only get one nomination. So.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, that's good to know.
All right, I'll go ahead since Carter moved Patrick. I will go ahead and move Kevin Maurer.
Second, if I can.
Second.
Yeah, you can
David
second. David Bove. I believe the only people not that were on the document that were not on this list or that have not been nominated yet were Jeff Stewart and Shane Hoffman. And yes, people who were not on the spreadsheet can be nominated.
I spoke to Jeffrey Stewart several times, and he indicated he would not be willing to do it. I
Okay.
already nominated someone, so I can't nominate, but if somebody else wants to nominate, that's fine. Is there anybody who hasn't nominated that could nominate Shane? I don't know. I think like everybody that put themselves forward, I think should have a chance, you know?
Yeah, I'll nominate Shane to the Skylar.
And
That's a second from Bonnie Callis.
yeah, and someone needs to nominate Bonnie because I can't do that.
She got nominated.
Oh,
Well, no, I nominated her.
Yeah, Tai Chi did it, but he.
I'll
already
move to
nominated.
nominate Bonnie.
I'll second.
Okay, Everett, did you get that? Albert nominated Bonnie and Bryce seconded.
I got that one.
I move that we all like buy Everett flowers
All
at
right.
the end of all this.
All right, all right. So are there any more nominations? Seeing none, we move out of the time of nominations. I move to adjourn this meeting until 10:30 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning.
Second.
That's Dane Garrett is seconding the adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That passes. Have a good night, everyone. Bright and early. Well, I guess it will only be bright and early for the West Coasters.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Good night.
Night, everybody.